This is Laurie Moore-Moore with Texas Brave and Strong. Today's topic, Texican, Texian, or Texan. The difference is all in the timing. From Texican to Texian to Texan, why three different words for citizens of Texas? Let's do a quick review of Texas history to see what was happening during the time each of these terms for Texas citizens was used. The term for Anglos living in Mexican Texas from 1820 to 1836 was Texican, easy to remember because it rhymes with Mexican. The colonization of Mexican Texas began in earnest when Mexico became independent from Spain in 1821, and it lasted until the successful end of the Texas Revolution in 1836. During this period, the existing Mexican province of Texas was merged with the Mexican province of Coahuila, forming the province of Coahuila y Texas. Mexican citizens were reluctant to move to sparsely populated Texas, where the Plains Indians, including the fierce Comanche, reigned. Wanting to create a barrier between the marauding Indians and the more settled parts of Mexico, the Mexican government decided to implement a plan developed by Spain just prior to Mexico's independence and invite Anglo-American settlers to settle in Texas. This influx would, the government hoped, also stimulate economic development. Immigrants were required to take an oath of loyalty to Mexico and be Christian. The assumption was that they would be Catholic. However, Catholicism was not consistently enforced. Generous land grants at low prices were offered to Anglo-American settlers. Each immigrating head of household could claim a head right of 1 league or 4,428 acres of grazing land, plus 1 labor or 177 acres of farmland. The initial offering involved a total payment of $184 to be made in 6 years. To facilitate the settlement, Mexican authorities set up a contractual system to grant blocks of land to impresarios, who would advertise for immigrants, screen them, and oversee their settlement. The first of these impresarios was Stephen F. Austin, who was authorized by the Mexican government to settle 300 families in Texas in 1821. Subsequently, Austin was given permission to settle an additional 1,700 families between 1825 and 1831. By 1835, when the land office closed, approximately 1,000 land titles had been granted. Settlers were willing to immigrate for several reasons. Not only were land prices attractive, the lack of agreements between the U.S. and Mexico to return fugitives or allow creditors to pursue debt collection made Mexico an attractive location for debtors and for those accused of crimes. Many people running from the law or avoiding creditors simply painted "Gone to Texas" or the initials GTT on their doors or gateposts and made a dash for the Texas border. These first Anglo settlers in Mexican Texas were known as Texicans. But this reference changed following the Texas Revolution. Although the revolution began officially in 1835, the pressures leading to it had been smoldering for years before. As early as 1830, Texicans were frustrated by the Mexican government's actions. The decree of 1830 forbade colonists from countries whose borders touched those of Mexico from settling near their own country's borders. Land contracts for colonies not yet approved were suspended, and any settler ending Mexico from the north was required to have a passport issued by a Mexican consular in his own country. It also prohibited bringing slaves into Texas. Laws were also passed approving the settlement of Mexican convicts in Texas. Texicans had also been promised that Texas would become a separate province from Coahuila, and the general opinion was that Mexico was dragging its feet in delivering on this promise. To make matters worse, 12 military posts were established in Texas, and military troops posted to collect taxes and enforce Mexican law. This set the stage for several rounds of petitions and appeals. Texicans also held 2 conventions to draft a constitution for Texas as an independent province to strengthen their request to break from Coahuila. Inside Mexico, Santa Anna was elected president and began to maneuver to make himself dictator. Stephen F. Austin was arrested and held in Mexico without trial. By spring of 1834, Santa Anna made himself the supreme ruler of Mexico, and the federal Constitution of 1824 became a thing of the past, removing the freedoms and protections of all Mexican citizens. When the province of Zacatecas refused to accept dictatorship and abolishment of the 1824 Constitution, Santa Anna attacked them, bringing much death and destruction. Provincial governments were abolished, and Texas was placed under military rule. By 1835, feelings of distrust were running high. Colonists began organizing committees of safety to share information on Mexicans' actions. Texicans were not inclined to yield to Santa Anna's absolute rule, and Santa Anna sent a large contingent of troops to Texas and pledged to show no mercy to rebelling Texicans. He did, however, release Austin. Following an attack on Anahuac led by William Travis and a skirmish over a small brass cannon at Gonzales, war seemed inevitable. The battles of Goliad and the tragic fall of the Alamo, plus the final victory over Santa Anna at San Jacinto in 1836 and the others in between, are well documented and probably familiar. It was in these circumstances which resulted in the creation of the independent Republic of Texas that a new term was born. Citizens became Texians and remained so for about a decade. In September of 1836, Texians were called upon to elect a president, vice president, senators, and representatives for the new republic. Sam Houston, the hero of San Jacinto, was chosen for a 2-year term as president, and Mirabeau Lamar was elected vice president. Houston immediately appointed Stephen F. Austin as Secretary of State. Austin's first task was to prepare instructions for William Wharton, the first minister to Washington. Working for 3 days and nights in a cold room with no fire, Austin fell sick, and the father of Texas died of pneumonia on December 27th. The new republic was beset with difficulties, beginning with the facts that the new country was $1.25 million in debt, and faced with a Mexico which declared the treaty with Santa Anna void and talked of reinvading Texas. Nonetheless, the new republic furloughed the army and focused on important legislation. A general land office was established, as were land laws to help untangle the conflicting claims of ownership. Post offices and mail routes were established, and Texas formalized its borders by claiming all land between the Sabine River and the Rio Grande. Texas also claimed a column of land extending into what is now New Mexico, Colorado, and Wyoming. The border with the U.S. was to be settled by a commission. Although many Texians hoped to be admitted to the Union, instead, on March 2, 1836, the U.S. Congress recognized Texas as an independent country. Although troubles with Mexican invasions continued, as did problems with the Cherokee and the Comanche, Texas moved ahead to choose Austin as its new capital. France, Holland, Belgium, and England recognized Texas as an independent state. Finally, in February of 1845, the U.S. Congress passed a joint resolution offering annexation to Texas. In the summer of that year, the Republic's legislature voted to accept annexation. In October, the people voted to join the Union, and in February of 1846, the transfer of governance occurred. Texas officially became a state, and its citizens became known as Texans. And as Texans we remain. This has been Laurie Moore-Moore with Texas Brave and Strong. Tidbits of Texas history you never learned in school. Broadcasting every other Thursday. It's the best little podcast in Texas. Subscribe so you can catch every episode. Thanks for listening.